Hey folks, the expanded Kingdom of Hyrule in Tears of the Kingdom, reaching to the heights of the stunning Sky Islands, all the way to the daunting Deep of the Depths, is jam-packed with world lore. Old and new structures, settlements and remnants of the past can be found all over the vast explorable world and create many mysteries, from the origins of these Zonai mines to the ruins of the Gerudo Desert. But today, I want to take a look into a great mystery regarding the Gorons, Hyrule's strength personified rockmen, brothers, tough nuts, the inhabitants of Death Mountain and Goron City. However, it's here that lies a great mystery, or rather, deep down below in the depths of Death Mountain. The depths of Hyrule is a near-mirrored underworld, containing various locations of interest, and one of the most interesting is the Fire Temple in the surrounding area. It appears there was once more than just a dungeon here, a society, a life, the Gorons. In today's video, we're going to be exploring deep into the great mystery of the Fire Temple. Be sure to go and grab yourself a snack and drink, folks. Send them in on my socials linked below. Subscribe if you're new for more fabulous Zelda content your way. And without further ado, let's get into this mystery. Let's start by examining and exploring the entire area. If you discover this area through the main story, you'll be dropped into the depths by diving down the Death Mountain Chasm. An epic but daunting dive down the blasting heat of the volcano. On the map, this area covers a large range. For context, the size of Goron City on the surface only covers the space here at the abandoned Elden Mine, whereas the Fire Temple and surrounding ruins span over this entire area. When we first reach the Fire Temple, we see the subtitle Lost Gorondia Rediscovered. And ever since reading this, it's had me intrigued as to what lore hides behind this. I hadn't given it tons of thought, but it had been in the back of my mind for the longest time. This Fire Temple is part of a lost settlement or operation of some sorts. We as the player, Link in-game, have rediscovered it. So what exactly is the story that has been lost to time? Across this entire wider area, we can find interesting remains and ruins, broken down bridges across lava pools, mining spots and equipment that are now damaged and not in operation, large Goron statues, possibly depicting the ancient Goron sage seen in the post-dungeon scene with Yunobo, a spring of some kind, as well as building ruins, mostly in rubble. These sort of remains are scattered all across the place. They appear kinda randomly dotted around, but if you consider what all of this would have looked like before falling to the decay of time, then it shapes up as a settlement of sorts. If you talk to a young Goron called Dugby, found in Goron City, you can pick up a short side quest from him called The Ancient City, Gorondia. Long story short, it doesn't actually lead to Gorondia itself. However, Dugby tells Link that it was an ancient city where the Gorons once lived, confirming to us that what we find down here is in fact a lost city, a former home of the Gorons. But what exactly was life like here compared to Goron life in this day and age? Well, the Fire Temple itself appears to have been some sort of mining operation facility. We find multiple levels, elevators, minecarts, rails to transport them, sorting areas, working areas, and lots of different equipment across the temple. This would have been the heart of all mining done in this wider area. We do see other mining spots elsewhere in the area, but this would have been the hub, the place where the most metal and gems were found and also processed. There is a lot of access to lava here, and I'd assume it was to help smelt and refine the variety of precious goods mined here. Gorondia would have been a hard-working settlement, utilising the immense strength of the Gorons. It would have also been a lot more populated than the Goron City we see in the present day. There was just so much more space, containing a lot of building ruins, so it's safe to assume there was a larger population living down here. It's likely that there was ways to go between Gorondia and the surface, so there was probably a split overall population between the Gorons, but I believe the majority lived down here in the city of Gorondia. but it might not have been all that great. The depths of Hyrule are scary enough at times, but especially in ancient times and below Death Mountain, there may have been threats to consider that we don't see in this current day and age. We find the remains of whatever these massive creatures once were. There are actually quite a lot of skeletal remains found across Death Mountain and the depths of Death Mountain. It's been heavily speculated that these were once dragons or leviathans of some kind, so it's very possible that in ancient times, back when the city of Grondia was alive and flourishing, that creatures like these were also alive and flourishing. There might have also been the likes of Dodongos, fire-breathing lizards that have appeared a good few times across the series. The dungeon boss of Ocarina of Time's Dodongo's Cavern, also found on Death Mountain, being King Dodongo. We don't find any in the present day, but they're definitely a staple of Death Mountain, so it's extremely likely that they were lurking down here at some point in time. So whilst life down here was likely hard-working, filled with lots of friends and family, it was also likely more dangerous, or at least somewhere you had to be cautious and keep an eye out for threats. But other than that, I imagine life was fairly similar. We also need to consider the possible connections Grondia may have to past Goron settlements seen in other Zelda games, particularly Goron City seen in Ocarina of Time and the Goron Mines seen in Twilight Princess. Both Goron operations and settlements within and on Death Mountain, both with sections that go deeper into the mountain. In Ocarina of Time, Goron City can be found just on the inside of the mountain, not particularly deep within, but you can access the deeper sections as there is a passage to the mountain crater, also known as the Death Mountain Summit, which leads Link to the Fire Temple of Ocarina of Time, also home to the dragon boss of the dungeon, Volvagia. Perhaps that's what these bones are. The temple in this game isn't a mining operation like seen in Tears of the Kingdom, rather a classic Zelda dungeon. It has prison cells, mazes, puzzles, and typical dungeon rooms, so it's not one-for-one connected apart from the fact it's found within the deeper areas of the mountain. As for Twilight Princess, the Goron settlement here is a bit more spread between the inside and outside. We see them set up on the route to the actual mines, inside rooms as well as outside areas such as hot springs. The mines themselves serve as the game's second dungeon, and are a large expansive mining operation, similar to the purpose of the Fire Temple in Tears of the Kingdom. Except these mines go in between the insides of the mountain and outside. It's quite complex and uses technology to operate, as well as rooms for the Goron Elders throughout the operation. Between these two past locations, I'd connect the locations seen in Tears of the Kingdom more with Ocarina of Time, but at the same time, geographical exacts do vary quite a lot between Zelda games, so it's entirely possible that all of this is connected in some way or another. Geography-wise, I feel Ocarina of Time matches up a bit more. However, I feel Twilight Princess matches up a bit more in terms of the operation. They're both mining facilities as well as homes. Stuff like this does tend to blend a little over the games and years in terms of in-game lore, so it's not something to overthink massively, but definitely consider that these could all be connected to some degree, even if it's just similarities. So why and how did such a mighty settlement free from the threats of the surface fall into such decay? Admittedly, yeah, there was probably threats down below, but you can apply that to anywhere really. The Gorons are also extremely strong and well organised, so I don't think any threats down here would have just wiped them out. Yeah, they would have had to deal with them, but I couldn't see that being the reason for the fall of this city. There is one major hint, which may give us an answer. In Princess Zelda's 12th memory from her time in the ancient past, during the era of founding, we see the ancient sages giving reports on the status of settlements in the time which Ganondorf is taking over the kingdom with his demon army. We hear the report that the last free village of Gerudo Desert has fallen, indicating that Ganondorf and his demon army are rampaging across the kingdom far and wide, overwhelming them with his terrifying numbers and vicious minions. It's not outright said, but I'd say it's a very safe assumption to make that these attacks were kingdom-wide, or at least to the major settlements and their surrounding areas, meaning it's rather likely that Ganondorf targeted the Gorons at some point. Despite being deep beneath Death Mountain, his minions would find a way to get down there and overwhelm them. We know Ganondorf's minions can easily survive down here despite the heat, so what I'm thinking is that this is the reason Gorondia fell. It was a victim of Ganondorf's assault on the kingdom in ancient times. The events leading up to the summit of the Imprisoning War, which concluded with King Rauru sacrificing his physical form in order to seal the King of Evil, stopping him from destroying Hyrule and making it his own. As to why the Gorons didn't just continue to live and operate out of here following all of that, I would imagine that their overall population fell significantly following Ganondorf's assault on the kingdom, making this large space a little too big for the now much smaller population. Ganondorf is an evil man. What he done to Hyrule in this time is truly horrific, and I believe that it caused the Gorons to make this space on the surface of the mountain their primary settlement, leaving Gorondia to ruin. I personally believe that Lost Gorondia was once this entire area in the depths of Death Mountain, spanning from the chasm drop all the way to the area in the front of the Fire Temple, and the temple itself. A much larger settlement than the Goron city of today's age, somewhere that was active when there were a lot more Gorons present. I believe they not only lived here, but also worked here as miners, getting precious metals and valuable gems to trade and sell across the kingdom of Hyrule. We see that they still do this in the current day. I just believe in the ancient past, they did it down here. It's also likely there was still some sort of settlement on the surface levels of the mountain, but I believe a larger and more primary settlement was found down inside the mountain, just as we've seen in past games. I really love these sort of mysteries within the world lore of Zelda games. I even did a similar video about a potential lost city of the Gerudo Desert a few months back, if you'd be interested in checking that out after this one. I'll have it linked below. But for now, that's my thoughts on the lost city of Gorondia. Thanks a ton for watching. What do you think about this mystery? Was the Fire Temple and surrounding area the former home of the Gorons? Possibly the very same as seen in the past? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, as well as any suggestions you may have to improve my videos or any ideas that you want to see me cover. If you enjoyed, then subscribing for more fabulous Zelda content would be highly appreciated, as well as a wee cheeky like. It really helps the channel out. As always, a massive thank you goes to my wonderful channel supporters across YouTube and Patreon. Your generous financial backing of the channel helps to make these videos all the more possible. If you're interested in that, as well as access to my weekly inside scoop post, your name on screen right now, and a shout out when you join, then consider supporting via the links below. You'll also find my socials down there, and my Discord server if you'd like to join. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day or night, and until the next time, I've been Hyrule Gamer.